stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, y'all have a copy of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Okay, just a reminder to everyone, we're gonna try taping again. We taped last month. There were some sound quality issues with last month's meeting. So it was not posted on the website. We do have a microphone on the table, so hopefully we'll get better clarity. We don't want to put it on the website until there's actually decent clarity, because we don't want people viewing it and thinking that's the finished product. So I'm going to give it another trial run this time. Just a reminder, if anybody's sitting back in the chairs, there is a microphone also on the camera, so any side conversations will be picked up. So if you're saying anything you don't want the whole world to hear, don't, because the camera will pick it up. Also, if one person would speak at a time, that would be helpful, because people will be able to view this and they need to hear. So if council or if anybody from the audience has comments or questions or whatever, if they would speak up to make sure that it picked up, because some people's voices don't pick up as well. So just make sure that you do speak up, so people at home or wherever when they're viewing it are able to hear. So with that, our first order of business for the evening, is there anything for public comment period? Okay. First order of business is the 2014 financial audit review with Tom Wente.
Thank you. I am Tom Wente with Smith Schaefer. We are the firm that performs an independent audit of the city's financial statement, which was this document. You should have received in your council packets and hopefully had a chance to take a look at. I am going to walk through this proposal, which kind of lays out the information in the financial statements, a little easier format. I'll turn to the first page. We issued a clean or unmodified opinion saying that the financial statements are fairly stated. We reviewed the financial statements in detail.
There's one right here, Tom.
Oh, sorry. Reviewed them in detail with Larry and Chris. Issued our internal control letter and governance letter. You should have each received a copy of that. I don't see those in your packets. Those are available. Larry and Chris have those. And then the legal compliance, there were no exceptions there, and then no single audit was required this year. As far as the communication and internal control weaknesses, it's the same it's always has been, that you just don't have enough people to adequately segregate your duties. Now, having said that, I talked to both Chris and Larry about the fact that we really have kind of a nice opportunity here to do some things, as Larry's doing the accounting, and Chris can do some things to kind of improve controls a little bit. It's really kind of an ideal situation here. So we talked about some things, a review of invoices, obviously, but it could grow to more, a review of bank reconciliations and what have you. So there's some things you could do if you're interested in improving controls. Now that you have two people, we could sure talk about some other things that could make things a little better control-wise. So with that, let's get into the numbers. Let's see, the first set of numbers is on page 4. We walk through revenues, beginning with revenues. You see the property taxes, the history here as the property taxes have grown. They are impacted by things coming off TIF. They're impacted, of course, by collections of delinquents. So your levy stayed the same for many years until this year, but you see the changes there. Of course, they're also impacted by the state bought down property taxes by that yellow portion, which was the market value credit. And of course, in 11 they bought it down and then only sent us half of it. But that's now gone. Now you see the just a slight increase this year as you raise the levy, as you can see on slide 5, by $12,732 to $437,126. Slide 6, TIF. There have been 5 different TIF districts that we collected on here over the last, whatever this is, I guess 10-year period. Just 2, the one on the far left, Root River, and the far right, TIFs 1 and 5, as you should say, are the only 2 that we're making any collections on at this point. The rest are all closed out. LGA, you see what happened there in 2011. We had some LGA cuts that were restored in 2011, so that's kind of the big jump you see there. The last 2 years it's been flat until 2014, where we received a increase there to $353,618, or up 22,000. Number for next year will be up just under $2,000, as you can see, to $355,000. Comparing all those revenues over the last 10 years, it's in the left side. There was actually more state money coming in that darker color compared to the local dollars, which are the gray. That changed in, let's see, when did that change for the first time? 2009, just slightly. And then that's been the case every year other than the year, of course, when they made their catch-up. So more local dollars than state funding your governmental operations. We talk about governmental operations, that excludes water and sewer, by the way, which are paid for by ratepayers. General government, now we move to expenditures. You see the increase there this year laid out in the second bullet, the different things that resulted in your general government expenditures, what's in there in bullet number 1, and the reason they're up in bullet number 2. Public safety, some of these slides we break out the cost between capital outlay and just your routine expenses, because capital outlay can have such a major impact on the overall expense as it did in 2008 when a piece of equipment was purchased. But you can see the underlying cost for public safety last couple of years up a little bit, and then flat this year, flat to maybe even down a little bit. Increase in law enforcement offset by a decrease in ambulance and fire. Let's see, public works, slight increase there. Lots of little things up and down, maybe health insurance being the one that probably was the primary factor in that increase. Park and rec, of course, the capital outlay has had a pretty significant impact on your reported capital outlay expenditures. Mostly, at least the last 2 years, the OHV Trail Fund, where we spent $125,000 in 13 and just under $25,000 in 14 on capital. This year being that land acquisition. As far as the rest of the park and rec expenditures, you can see those listed in the second bullet. One thing about park and rec, there in many of these cases there is revenues being brought in by these activities to offset some or all of these expenses. Library, there was a little bit of a jump or increase there in library this year to $78,000, but the county did increase their aid by $6,457 to offset that increase. Economic development expenditures. Last year we had part of Chris's salary in here that caused that number to go up, back down this year as a result of course, general government absorbing Chris's salary. As we compare the expenses, public safety, as you might imagine, is pretty much double the cost of any other category, which is what we see in almost every city of this size. Slide 17, we compare your actual expenditures in the lighter color with what you budgeted. You were under budget in general government, public safety, and public works. Over budget in parks and the community center because of, as it says in that bullet there, the sidewalk that was put in. It's actually, I think, paid for through some contributions, but it did cause your expenditures to go over budget. Overall, the general fund is under budget, $3,349. These other funds on slide 18, every single fund there is under budget as far as expenditures. No fund over budget. Reserves then. Now the gray here on slide 20 is, think about it as what you got in the bank, your reserve in the general fund, and the brownish color there is what you spend. You kind of compare what you have in the bank to what you spend to see kind of how that reserve compares The biggest year there, 12 and 13, you see how those were, as you go to the second bullet, they were 64 and 67%, about 2/3 of the other column. This year, we had some pretty significant transfers out of the general fund. There was the vehicle replacement, we had 35,000 come out, our nature center 14,000, and our fire transfer was a little larger than normal because of some equipment there as well. So we brought our general fund balance down. At the same time, of course, those expenditures that we talked about in general government, bringing our expenditures up, and our percentage drops from 64 to 42, which is a pretty significant drop. It is kind of in the state's recommended 30 to 50%, but it's fairly low. Not quite as low as it was back in 2009 and 10, however, when it was 16 to 17%. So you kind of got yourself out of it. You're up in that 2/3 area, and then a little bit of a step back this year. Okay, now special revenue funds, the ambulance fund up 3,000. This is fund balance to 133,000, which has been building back up after buying the ambulance in 2011. Fire fund up to 164,000. There is $209,000, of which the fire fund is partially servicing, not the garage, but the equipment in those USDA loans. But they have $164,000 in fund balance. Nature Center, of course, you know, you've been working through this deficit fund balance. There are changes, my understanding, in 2015 in the Nature Center that will hopefully address the deficit. Sounds like they will. A library fund, I mentioned before, expenses were up, but the county aid up 6,000 as well. We're levying 35,000 there, and a small decrease in their fund balance to 10,148. Ball field fund is on page 26. Self-sufficient, no city levy in there. Fund balance continues to grow. Park and Rec Fund, you can see in 2009, there were funds here out of Park and Rec that were used to set up that ball field fund, $23,299. And this year we raised the levy to 8,000 from 5,000, a slight increase in fund balance, but really not much in reserves there in that fund. And then we move on to the obligations of the city. A couple things. First of all, that kind of, whatever it is, purple color is 14. So of course the first one, 2002, was paid off this year. There's no purple column there. On the second one, you can see a fairly steep payoff there. It's come down to, what is it, 385,000, 2007 bond, 90,000 in principal paid. You can see how steep that is compared to some of those others. The third one, there's $8,000 left on that small water bond. That will be paid off in 2015. And then the last two bonds, there's 420 and 320 on those two. Installment loans on the next slide, the two USDA loans related to fire equipment as well, $208,900. As far as maturities on slide 31, really isn't anything that's going to change here. Over 200,000 in the next 4 years until 2019. Now, my understanding is you are in the process of refunding, but Larry felt that maybe that really wasn't going to change the. It's going to save you some money, but not really change the cash flows going forward as far as the amount necessary to fund your debt on an annual basis. Page 33, cap project fund. There isn't much here. That capital improvement fund had nothing in it at the end of the year. Your TIF capital project is a typical TIF fund. It's negative. It means you initially put the money in and you're getting it back as the TIF comes in, and that is coming down as it's supposed to. It's now 14,000 that are those other funds. There's some economic development. Vehicle replacement is way down this year, as you know. The two vehicles that were purchased this year brought that fund balance down, and then there's a little bit in street seal coating. Okay, we'll wrap up with the water and sewer funds. Historically, you can look at the dark blue here is revenues. The lighter color, grayish color are the expenses, and that results in either a gold income number or a red loss. After 3 years of excesses, we did report a loss in water this year. Our revenues were down 3.5%, and at the same time, repair costs drove our expenses up 13, causing water to report an $11,000 loss. I'm actually fairly early in our season. I personally in charge of 10 audits of cities in southeastern Minnesota, and the first 2 saw water declines and expense increases. They both feel it was related to the adjustments, the credits that were given, and additional repair costs related to broken lines. So I assume a lot of that's probably happening here as well. But there has not been a rate increase in water since 2010. Something to keep an eye on. And I believe Mike was on his going to see you about rates. Our sewer fund, revenue's down 5% there, but expenses were down. We actually had less repair costs in sewer this year than in 2013. So we continue to report net income there, but if you look at that yellow bar there, net income the last 4 years, there's definitely a trend there. So it's something, again, to take a hard look at. No rate increase since 2010, when you can see the effectiveness of that rate increase. Of course, in 2010, it took those losses in sewer to income the last 4 years, but unless we can turn those revenues around, that's probably not going to continue. And then the slide 37 then looks at not the income statement, but rather the balance sheet, what's left in this water and sewer fund after those operating results. The green is cash, and the gray is debt. And you can see we really haven't got a lot of cash in there. The gray, the additional bonds issued in 2012 resulted in a fairly significant increase in debt there to over $500,000. It's coming down, but basically the cash that you're generating from rates, net of any expenses you have, are just being used to pay down the bonds and not really accumulating any cash. And your water fund in that black is, for the first time, the water fund is in a cash deficit position. And we noted that here with that black column there. So cash, there's some cash in sewer, but water has a deficit. So to wrap up, you're at $242,000 in reserve in the general fund. That's 42% of what you spend in a year. All your special revenue funds have a positive fund balance, except for the nature center. The fire fund has $164,000 in it, and it is servicing, or at least partially servicing, the USDA loan. All the bonds and installment notes are being paid on a timely basis. There is not much in capital improvement reserves. It's not like you stockpiled a bunch of reserves for future projects. And then as far as water and sewer, basically the cash is coming in to service the existing debt, but not setting any money aside for future capital. And the water fund, for the first time, is in a deficit cash position. So that's our report. I'll be happy to take any questions you have related to any of this.
Any questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, the Houston County Solid Waste Program, Rick Frank. Hi, Rick.
Good.
We're well, how are you?
Good. I won't take much time. Did we get all the, did you get these all?
Yep, everything in your packet.
Every year what I do is I try to get around to all the cities and townships to basically give them a quick update on the solid waste in the county, especially the drop cell program, for which all the cities and townships end up participating in. What I try to do is basically give you an overview for the year as far as all the revenue that comes into that, and also the expenditures, and the amount of material that we run through those sites combined. I will say a couple of things, the difference in some of this here is, I pointed out just earlier, like in the Crescent down there, we don't service much of the rural area down there as far as compacted refuse. That's all serviced down there by curbside collection, like you'd have in the city here, so there's a little difference in there as far as the refuse goes. We collect that as just a very small amount down there compared to the rest of the 4 sites. The other thing I'd like to say is, through the years, we've been kind of updating the program as we go to, or not so much updating, but the way we do business as far as disposal of the items. Things are changing as far as the companies and how they do business and what they charge, and we kind of try to keep on that so we can get the best disposal rates for the material we run through. For example, this year beginning of the year now, we have switched again for electronic waste, how we're doing business. We're now sending it, instead of going to the cities with it, we're sending it over to La Crosse, Wisconsin here. It's closer, and plus the price was cheaper. They also worked with us. We've been able to contact a number of these larger companies. We've got 5 companies now that actually will start picking the material up right off our docks for nothing, which helps our bottom line, and we're able to keep the cost down. We've been able to keep the cost down. I think the last time we raised it, I think it was in 10. We went from $2.50 to $3. Yeah, $3 per household per month. And that's, like I say, so we've been able to, with switching a few things and disposal costs and everything else, we've been able to we've been doing our best to keep that cost down. That's kind of everything in a nutshell on the drop site program. I don't know if there's any, like I said, I try to give you all the 3 sites, or 5 sites, I should say, combined as far as what we handled through each one of the drop sites, and the revenues and expenditures for each one of those drop sites. I don't know if there's any questions on that. Normally, if there's any concerns or comments, or if you have anything on the program throughout the year, I would appreciate a call, so if there's a problem, we can straighten that out. The other side, what I wanted to just touch base with, is we're having the fluorescent bulb collection. That's coming on April 11th. I will be noted, that is at the drop site up here from 8 to 3 for all the residential, and normally what I do is contact most of the businesses in here in the cities to basically take care of their bulbs ahead of time. All the commercial I like to get done during the week, and then the residential on that Saturday. What I do, like in Houston, I will notify most all the businesses and tell them to come over to the recycling center on Monday of that week, and then I'll take them all in over there. Same with every other city, I take them into the drop site during the time I'm in that area. So, but like I said, most of the bulbs, they can't get it there. We're open that Saturday, that April 11th, to take all the bulbs in from 8 to 3. And then those are sent on to the cities, or they're recycled, if that happens to them. Otherwise, also, I just want to notify the residents that we're having 3 household hazardous waste collections again in this year in the county. We're having the first one at the recycling center in Houston from 1 to 6. That's on May 21st. The next one will be Spring Grove. That'll be from 1 to 6, and that's July 8th. And the last one in the county will be La Crescent, and that'll be from 1 to 6 on August 26th of this year. Those are all, we coordinate with La Crosse County. They bring their mobile units over, and we take anything and everything in at that time. The big thing, which we've been really, that the residents, I should say, in the county are taking advantage of, is the pharmaceutical part of that. That has really grown from a couple of pounds to, I think, last year we were well over 200 and some pounds of pharmaceuticals we collected and had properly disposed of, so that's both controlled and uncontrolled. So that's really worked out well for us. That's kind of everything I had. I said if there's any comments with the drop sites or any of the other programs, I would, appreciate a phone call and so that's what I have. Thank you.
Let's get any questions?
Just make, that hazardous waste, that's paint and,
Everything,
Everything
yeah.
like
Paints, solvents, oils, all of it. We will be advertising in all the papers again as the dates come closer to each site and each time. So, like I said, we normally will cover the whole county at that rate. It doesn't necessarily just have to be the Houston area. I've got a lot of them come down from Caledonia, but what I have been doing is kind of like next year I'll take these three, and next year I'll take the Caledonia and Hoka area. I just kind of keep switching them around so that we kind of keep, every 2 years we got the whole county covered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, thank you.
So I should be looking at dates this year and try to remember for them all, so that,
Yes.
okay. Okay.
Yes.
You live in Houston, but you missed the drop-off date for the hazardous waste. Can you go spring over to press?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody's welcome anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. KC, the business loan request for 101 West Cedar.
Yes, it's exciting that someone's going to start up a restaurant again. And Nikki Rood is actually here in the audience if you have any questions for her. You'll see her application, and she's also applied to the county EDA and has a loan from them. And then from the city, she's requesting $5,000. And the city EDA has recommended approval.
Do you want to make a motion?
I didn't know if you were going to talk about if there were any questions
Well, it's
first.
already been through
I
the
was waiting.
EDA. I figured this has been through the EDA and the EDA.
Make a motion, we accept the EDA's recommendation for the revolving loan.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I just have to ask, why the name Lola's?
I have several nicknames, and that was the smartest one. Most offensive of everything, so that's.
Because the whole, Copacabana song kept coming into my head every time I heard it. And
It
then
just kind of went with the vision of what I have, so
There you go.
hopefully you'll get in there and you'll understand.
Great.
I think everybody's very excited.
You know, I said if half of the people who have contacted me and shown support show up, I'll be fine. Now, I think that if a fourth of those people show up, I'm gonna be doing darn good. It's crazy.
It'll be nice to have a business back on that corner
Can
again.
we ask a little bit about, can you tell us a little bit about the business menu, thing like that?
So my plan is like, I kind of want to, it'll be like cafe food, but like more of a modern, updated feel to it. I want to stay away from the greasy spoon, mom and pop joint type thing. But, have some newer updated items on the menu, some things for the ladies, salads and wraps and stuff like that, but some good hearty meals also. So I'll be doing breakfast every single day, and then we'll be doing lunch every day. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll be doing evening meals to start with, because I'm doing all the cooking myself to start with. I don't want to kill myself, yes. So if there's a need for me to be open later than like 5:30 on Monday, Tuesday, I'll do that. So there'll be like baked potato vegetable specials, sandwich specials during lunch and things like that.
Awesome. Well,
Excellent.
welcome, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, very exciting.
April 6th is the date we're opening.
April what?
6.
6.
And it's Lola's. Is that the entire name?
Yep.
Hell, well,
Okay, do we need to do anything more with that then, Chris? Are we good?
No, not tonight. Jed will draw up the documents for the loan,
Okay.
and we'll need your signature when that time comes in a couple weeks, in a week about.
close with the bank on March 16th.
Yep, that's what,
And then that's when the Houston County EDA wants to have their stuff in.
yep, and that's what we're shooting for. Our attorney thought he could get everything ready by then, so.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you all.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks.
A water treatment project, owner engineer contract.
Yes, as you can see in the memo I wrote, I explained that now that we're applying to the USDA for a $30,000 grant to cover some of this upfront planning and preliminary engineering, we took Davy's proposal for $10,000, which the council already approved, and we added the next steps of services in there, so they could be covered by that $30,000 if we're awarded that grant. So, in doing that, the USDA wants this official contract, long contract, signed between the city and the engineer, and I had sent that out to you. And basically, it just bumps up Davy's contract from $10,000 to $23,000. And then there's another $7,000 of services like soil borings and things like that, that I'd like permission to contract for those when they come up, so we can get going on this radium project.
But this is the stuff that I said like a grant or something last week, right? So we can maybe get a grant to cover this then.
Correct, right. Part of the requirements for the grant is to use this contract. And so I got everything else to the USDA for that grant application. Hopefully we'll find out within the month if we get that $30,000. Even if we do not get that $30,000, we still need to move ahead with this engineering to get the project moving. And eventually it will be reimbursable by grant or loan through another program through the USDA. So it's moving along.
I make a motion to approve the contract with Davy Engineering for that $23,000 to add to the $30,000 grant possibility.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those excuse me, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And do you want to approve that other $7,000 right away in case we
Oh, yes.
need those services? Okay.
I also make a motion to include $7,000.
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Schedule a special council meeting to review capital improvement.
Yes, Mike Pubani came and met with Larry and Randy and I, and we went over some initial projects to plug into his formula to start looking at what we can afford and when we could do projects. And he wants to come now and meet with council, and he prefers it be a special meeting, so there's nothing else on the agenda. We can just spend time really concentrating on that because it's pretty important projects, important timing to schedule it with priorities and everything. So he's proposing March 23rd, or Monday,
Yep,
or
that'd
the
be
30th. Either one would work for him, so.
We have to wait till these two get done.